What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be taking a look at the Pwnage Stormbreaker. This mouse has taken me by surprise in a lot of ways and there's a lot of things I would like to share with you guys about it. So, is this going to be the perfect gaming mouse for you? Let's check it out. Alright guys, and before we get started, I did want to let you know that I actually purchased this with my own money. It was not sent out to me. However, that will never be a factor in what I have to say or change the outcome of my thoughts and opinions on a product. Starting out with the box, it does have this very minimalistic approach. However, I really do like the design. You just kind of swing the top open like that, and here you have the mouse in all its glory. And as you can see here, I did opt for this gray colorway with the black accents, and I truly think that this thing looks perfect. I'm super happy I went with this colorway. And underneath the mouse, here we have this pyramid style dongle or receiver. It does have a USB-C connectivity on the back, and it does have rubberized feet on the bottom, so it stays nice and put on your desk. And also included inside the box, it does come with a USB-C cable. You get this little tool here that helps you unscrew the sensor at the bottom of the mouse and be able to move it around and adjust it, which we'll get into that here shortly. Then it also comes with a user manual. And they have also included a set of grips. Down here at the bottom of the mouse, you do have the power switch. And even though I have pretty chunky fingers, it has been pretty easy for me to dig in there to be able to turn the switch on or off for the mouse. It does come equipped with these 4-corner skates, and I must say I've been really enjoying these feet a lot. They feel very premium, and I haven't had any type of desire to change them out. And the tool that is included inside the box is just a smaller screwdriver that allows you to adjust the screws on the bottom here. That way you can adjust the position of the sensor up or down. I do feel like this is a really cool feature that Pwnage has added, because I do know that there are people out there that do prefer very far forward sensors, or even sensors that are further to the back. Personally, I typically do prefer to have a sensor that's more in the middle. And just to show you guys here really quickly, even though I do have the sensor placed a little bit more forward, I do feel like the mouse is slightly just a little bit back heavy still. And this is really just a real minor detail about the mouse, because the overall weight of this thing and balance, even left to right, as you can see there, it's honestly really solid. So just a real small thing that I noticed that I'd figure I'd bring up to you guys. And when it comes to the weight, my copy is coming in at 52.6 grams. When I first took this out of the box, it did feel a bit more stiff, and I have been using it a lot. Over about the past 2 weeks, I'd say it has loosened up quite a bit. However, the build quality on this thing is still solid. Mouse button 1 has very minimal pre-travel, almost none. And as you can see there, the way that I grip the mouse, it has very minimal post travel as well. Now, if you did move further on the switch, it can make contact with the base of the mouse, but they're very solid, and I never found an issue where I felt like it was slapping against the base too much or anything like that. These clicks feel incredibly premium. And even though the clicks have loosened up quite a bit since I got them, I do feel like they're still a bit heavier than some of the other offerings that are out there. They do have a really consistent feeling from the front up to the top. It does get just a little bit harder towards the top of the mouse, but the way that I grip it, especially with this aggressive curve here, I really doubt that too many people are going to be clicking the buttons from the very top right there. Another thing that I'm a huge fan of is I really like the design of these buttons here. They kind of had made them in a way that you don't get any type of teetering or rocking on them with this design, and you get very minimal to almost no play on the left to right. And it's evenly matched over here on mouse button number 2. Very minimal pre-travel, very minimal post-travel, nice crisp click, no wobbling, no play. Everything just feels solid. Moving over to the scroll wheel, they did not use any type of a rubber on the wheel up here. It is kind of these plastic grooves. And though I do prefer rubber just slightly a bit more, I do want to say that this scroll has been working perfectly for me. There hasn't been a time or an issue that I've had with this in my gameplay that I felt like I was missing anything or it was interrupting my style of play. I really feel like the size of the scroll that sticks out is really good as well. It has nice defined steps, and it has a really solid click here that's very easy to spam. Next up, coming to the side buttons, literally almost no pre-travel, very minimal post-travel, almost none. And once you click the button in, it feels incredibly solid. There's hardly any rocking going on or anything like that. The front and the rear side buttons on the thing are pretty much perfect. When it comes to the shell, the coating on here, it seems a little bit more slippery than usual. However, since it has all these holes and grooves all over it, I haven't been really struggling with gripping the mouse myself personally. I know it's very controversial with these grooves over here on the side, and even though I know it's probably not the popular opinion out there, for me personally, these grooves haven't really been bothering me very much. I thought they were kind of weird when I first started using them, but the more that I got used to the mouse and the more I got comfortable with it, I honestly just kind of forgot that they were there. They are very smooth, they don't cut your fingers or anything, and to be completely honest with you, when you're doing some type of an aggressive claw grip like I was doing when I used the mouse, they kind of do give you a little additional grip for the size of my fingers and hands personally. So I am remaining neutral when it comes to the cutouts on the side of the mouse, and either way, it's really cool that they provided you with a set of grips in case they bother you. Aside from that, the shell is nice and solid. I get no bending, no creaking, no popping. I'm not getting any type of switch grinding or anything like that on my copy. The performance when I've been using this mouse in game, it's been working perfectly. I haven't noticed any issues. Using the 2K pulling rate pretty much the entire time that I've had the mouse, I would say the battery life for me on average is probably lasting around 4 days, and that's with very heavy extensive use, using this mouse all day long, not just to game, but to work, edit my videos and stuff like that. I feel like they've done an incredible job with the software. It's incredibly easy to use and navigate through, and I really feel like the settings that come on the mouse just out of the box, they feel great. All I really needed to do was set my DPI, raise the pulling rate up to 2K, and I was set to go. Typically, Ergo mice aren't necessarily my favorite style of a mouse shape, but I must say that I am really impressed with the way this thing feels in my hands. And for me personally, I just really feel like this is the best Ergo style shape mouse that I've ever personally used for myself. I do kind of feel like the size sits somewhere kind of between the Pulsar Xlite V2 Mini and the Pulsar Xlite V2 Medium. It kind of has this medium ground to where it doesn't feel too big or too small for me. And one of my favorite things about the top pump here is I really like how it kind of more aggressively curves down to the rear and kind of more aggressively curves down towards the front of the mouse. I found that this shape has been working really well for me, whether I was trying to fingertip grip it, whether you're using some type of a pincer claw grip, even when I use my preferred aggressive claw grip, something like that. It allows you to get kind of up on the back of the mouse and put a lot of support underneath your knuckles right here. I feel like you're able to get in there pretty aggressively and to get some really good movement in your hands. It never felt like it was too big, or it didn't feel like it was too small to where I wasn't getting the stability that I needed. And I always include my hand size down in the description below in case you're wondering if you guys are gonna have a similar experience to me or not. All right, and when it comes to comparing the Stormbreaker to the Waizowl OGM Pro, the OGM Pro just overall just seems like a bit of a larger style mouse. It has a less aggressive taper from the top hump down to the rear, to where I feel like it tapers off more aggressively on the Stormbreaker, making the Stormbreaker feel like a little bit of a shorter mouse in the hands. On the bottom of the mouse, you can clearly see that the Waizowl just looks much more wider, where the curving on the side is much more aggressive on the Pwnage mouse for the thumb side. And then coming over here to the rear, you can clearly see the top of the mouse, how the Waizowl feels a lot flatter, and it feels a bit more wider at the top of the mouse as well in your hands. And though the Waizowl isn't classified as a pure Ergo style mouse, even though the hump on the Pwnage at the top here sits a little bit higher, I would say other than that, all around, the OGM Pro just feels like a bit larger of a mouse compared to the Stormbreaker. Next up, when comparing the Stormbreaker to the Vaxee NP-01s. Though you can kind of consider these both smaller style mice, I do feel like these two do have pretty different characteristics from one another. Starting off with the length, the Vaxee does feel a bit longer, but at the same time, it also does feel a bit more narrow in the hands as well. Coming over to the rear, the Pwnage definitely sticks up a bit higher towards the left side, to where the NP-01s does feel a bit flatter, but overall, as you can see, the width from the top of the mice aside from the Stormbreaker sticking up as much as it does, they don't seem like they're that far off from one another. And though these two mice have very distinct differences, I do feel like they're both kind of on the smaller end of the spectrum as far as the overall size goes. Next up, when comparing the Stormbreaker to the Pulsar Xlite V2 Mini. Like I'd mentioned to you guys earlier, the overall size of these are pretty close to one another. However, I do feel like the Stormbreaker, it does feel all around just a little bit larger. Starting at the bottom here, the Pwnage Stormbreaker feels just a little bit wider on the sides or the width of the mouse. Coming over to the rear here, as you can see here on the top profile, the Pwnage sticks up a little bit higher than the Xlite V2 Mini. One of the bigger differences that I'd also say that I notice is the rounding on the top of the Pulsar Xlite V2 Mini. It's a little more rounded, and I do feel like the curves from the top mid hump to the front and back of the Stormbreaker do feel a little bit more aggressive. Next up, when comparing the Stormbreaker to the Pulsar Xlite V2. Just as the Stormbreaker is a little bit larger than the Mini, I do feel like the Xlite V2, the medium size, it does feel just a bit wider at the bottom of the mouse compared to the Pwnage Stormbreaker. Then also coming over here to the rear of the mice, even though these aren't that far apart from one another, I do feel like the Xlite V2, it does stick up a little bit taller and overall just feels a little bit larger in the hands. And as you can see here, looking at these two mice from the sides, again, the Xlite V2 kind of has a softer curve going from the front of the mouse to the back, whereas the Stormbreaker does have more aggressive curves, kind of giving you a shorter and smaller feel in the hands when you're holding the Stormbreaker. Finally, when comparing the Pwnage Stormbreaker to the Razer DAV3 V3 Pro Faker Edition. Overall, the DAV3 V3 Pro, it does feel like a bigger mouse compared to the Pwnage Stormbreaker. As you can see here from the bottom, not only does the Pwnage Stormbreaker seem like it's a little bit shorter, but it isn't as wide as the DAV3 V3 on the bottom of the mouse. And when coming to the rear of the mice, as you can clearly see here on the DAV3 V3 Pro, it does sit up a little bit higher, and the top of the mouse just feels a little bit wider and taller overall. And looking at these two mice from the side, the DAV3 V3 Pro kind of has this slow taper from the front of the mouse up to the hump, but then I do feel like it does kind of taper off more aggressively towards the rear of the mouse, but it does just kind of feel a bit longer in the hands, wider and taller compared to the Stormbreaker. Alright guys, so that wraps things up on the Pwnage Stormbreaker, and I must say that I am incredibly impressed by this mouse. Not only has the performance really impressed me in game, it's really cool to see that right now this is just available in a 2K polling rate. They are also going to roll out the 4K polling rate in the near future. And I must say that the entire package that this comes in, from the performance to how it feels to the overall shape of it and the weight, it just has been really working out for me. It's been working out me in such a way that I can honestly say that I'm going to be placing this in my top 5. Alright guys, so if you have any questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know down in the comments below. Aside from that, if you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.